What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for ClickHeads. Absolutely massive patch coming through. The biggest set of buffs to an agent in Valorant ever, I think, with some other tuning and fixes alongside it. Riot likes to make these cute graphics that sum up the patch notes. Here for 1.04, tuning to Brimstone Raze, Cypher, and Viper. Some major changes to the classic pistol that you're going to want to know about, as well as some cosmetic upgrades to the pre-round buy menu. Getting right into it, strap in because these are pretty intense. Viper's Pit, her ultimate, now allows the max time outside of her ult before it collapses to be 12 full seconds. Okay, it used to be 5. Now you can do a lap around split and still get back in your ult. This is an extremely forgiving amount of time, but more flexibility updates as well. Viper can now hold the ability key to drop her ult early, so if you don't want it, if it's blocking line of sight, or you want to play mind games with the enemy. Another key change, enemies in Viper's Pit have their minimap obscured and do not provide minimap detection to their allies. Huge change. As before, if you rush in, the marker of enemies inside the pit made them a lot easier to track down. And one last buff increased the brightness of the red enemy glow at the edge of Viper's near sight. Massive buffs. The devs go on to explain that the problem with the old ult was that it limited the character as well as gave continuous information to her enemies. Agree completely. Now, the new flexibility that the ultimate has puts strategic pressure on the enemy, making it hard for her to be traded out when she's inside the ult, but also, as they say, give Viper a lot of mind games to play with a 12-second window for her to leave it altogether. There's so many things she can do, not to mention the enemies never know if you're going to, out of the blue, just drop it like it's hot and surprise them with their pants down as they're trying to make their way through the ultimate. And that's not all. There's more buffs as well. Further buffs to her decay mechanic, which is when you make contact with any of her smokes, your health begins to decay down. Well, now the rate has gone up to 15 per second, a 50% increase. It used to be 10. And after exiting Viper's smoke, enemy decay sustains for 2.5 seconds before starting to fade. So you're gonna have that icky gunk on you for longer and have to decide if you want to continue to move being one shot or hide in a corner, grabbing your inhaler, collecting yourself after getting hit with the poison. If you've watched the channel recently, there was a lot of criticism about Viper that she doesn't have a scary mechanic that punishes you for pushing her abilities, like Cypher's cages make a noise, for example. Well, now that the decay mechanic sticks, you're gonna need to be a lot more hesitant just simply rushing through and brushing off, getting the decay debuff onto you. The devs also note that this applies to her ultimate as well, which we're gonna have to test this for sure, but the correct response to a Viper's ult and her abilities now may be completely flipped, where before you see a Viper ult and you almost chuckle to yourself saying, well, that's a player that's out of this round. Let's either ignore her or overwhelm her easily. Now with the multiple buffs, well, that's gonna be terrifying, I think, when the Viper plays it well anyway. One last buff as well, they've changed the fuel cost so that you can have Poison Cloud and Toxic Screen active at the same time and it doesn't consume additional fuel. I think it made intuitive sense that each one used its own consumption amount, but because it made it drain so quickly, that meant you sort of had to use one at a time. So now, really, you should use them both at the same time whenever you want, because there is no penalty for doing so. The devs say that their intention with this is to help her create powerful options for her team to take sites using both abilities in tandem. And I'd also note that Viper was already seeing some decent play on defense, particularly for some key one-ways. Now with this added flexibility, as well as likely a more scary decay mechanic, having your smokes aggressively on the enemy team's side demands more respect than it did before. And at the very least, has a tactical difference between a Brim smoke, for example, which doesn't cause any status effect. Next up in the patch, Raze's Showstopper ultimate cost has been nerfed. It now costs 7 ult points, up from 6, which, as they say, should help reduce how often you have to go up against the Showstopper. Brimstone received the same nerf, and Riot cited the same justification, flexibility being a key power here. And I want to point out that the 7 ult cost is a very significant number because there's only 12 rounds and a half. In compensation for the ult nerf, Brimstone's Stim Beacon actually got a buff. It no longer buffs enemies and it won't show its radius to enemies. The devs say that the ability is pretty situational anyway, but they felt that revealing his location and the downside of accidentally buffing an enemy made it weaker than they would like. I can definitely say that using Stim Beacon always felt a little risky, because it might just tell the enemy where you are ahead of time as they're coming around a corner to peek you, so that's definitely not a thing you want. And the last buff to Brimstone is a visual one. Now you'll notice increased fidelity of Brimstone's arms. Just look at those guns. Okay, next up, Cypher's Cyber Cage can now be picked up during the buy phase. Important if you accidentally miss a very key one-way spot. To be honest, I wish they did this with every ability, including Raze's Blast Pack, which I seem to always just accidentally press as I'm waiting for the round to start, and then feel like an idiot when I lose an ability for nothing. Maybe that's just me. Moving on. Quite a significant change to the classic. And they say that the right click was the primary bug fix here, but they also took the opportunity to make the weapon behave more consistently. They say they slightly tuned the efficacy of jumping right clicks, but hopefully haven't taken away its viability in close range scenarios. So before, the gun had no inaccuracy when jumping. That has been tuned. But now, oddly enough, the running right click spread has been significantly reduced. They say this is primarily a bug fix, but I'm wondering if this is like a massive buff, because from 3.4 to 2.1, the classic might now be the mini judge, and it was already pretty lethal with its right click. So I'm a little afraid of this change, to be honest. The jumping and walking spread goes up a little bit, but they also added a 10% bonus to accuracy when crouching and stationary. It already felt like the Ghost was a bit inconsistent considering what you have to give up to buy it on pistol rounds. Now at longer ranges, the classic might be able to compete if you properly stop moving and crouch in order to tap shoot. We'll have to test this out and see how the gun matches up moving forward. And hey, if you enjoy our news breakdown content, make sure that you don't miss out on any of our new videos by clicking the bell icon next to the subscribe button to actually get notified straight to your cell phone when our videos come live. We make all sorts of different videos on this channel, and you don't want to miss out on any of the content. So click the bell right now. New UI changes. The weapon stat text box pre-round now has a graphical representation instead of just numbers, which, to be honest, I like just fine, but that's just me. Observer minimaps, which likely only really applies to esports, but a lot of us watch them, so this is useful. The vision cones are now colored by team, so it is going to be more easy to know who's looking where when you're checking out the minimap. And now Reyna's voiceover has been properly added to the game for the Italian and Mexican languages, where due to the state of the world, it was previously missing. Updates to the Elderflame skins. Lots of volume problems with this one have now been addressed. The equip animation won't be as loud. There was a bug that caused the volume to stack if you spam equipped the operator. And now enemy footsteps will lower the volume of your skin sound effects so that they're not so distracting in game. And last, the melee weapon now has an animation sound effect for level 1 and 2. Keep in mind that the Elderflame skins, the bundle anyway, leaves the store July 22nd, which is tomorrow for the time of this recording anyway. I'm currently unable to buy them because the second mortgage I put in my house hasn't cleared yet, so won't be able to afford them this time around. Some performance updates come through. I'll let you read those. Some bug fixes. A lot of these I didn't hear of, but the top ones we definitely have reported on. The accidental Reyna nerf has been reverted. Now Reyna doesn't have to maintain line of sight on her orbs. You can nab them and run around a corner like you used to when she first came out. And the one-way smokes that some players found inside the sky smokes for Brimstone have now been removed as well. Getting to the top of them no longer will provide you with a one-way. That's everything for the patch update. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out, lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and be sure to hit the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and discuss with you all the matters of the game of Valorant. Hit us a follow on there and join the discussion. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for Clickheads. We'll see you guys next time.